Hi y'all, Kraken Latte here. It's that time again where I bring you my tips, facts, or experience that you may or may not find helpful. Alright, as you can tell, we're gonna do something a little fun for this video. I like tier lists. I don't know how much you like tier lists, but I like them, and I've seen one circulating around the Twitter grapevine about World of Warcraft systems in-game, which is very cool. And let me scroll down here. There is a bunch. I've not completely looked through everything because I kind of wanted this to be, I don't know, sort of candid, I guess, sort of off the cuff. Let's see who made this. Thank you to Fun is Be Happy. Fun is Fun Be Happy. There we go. For creating this. I love you. You're awesome. This looks like a lot of work too, if you really kind of think about it. That's a long list. This is a long list. So, just like every other tier list ever, we've got S through F, and I'm going to rate them based on my opinions. So, let's see. I don't really have a rhyme or reason to this. I'm just going to go with gut reaction and then try to maybe explain it. So, alright, let's go through every system in-game that has been added here. So let's start at the very top. We'll just go through it. We have artifact weapons. Okay. I'm immediately going to put these in S tier. But I've got some reasons. I think that's because while the system of course had its flaws, I still think it's absolutely S tier because it is one of the few systems that goes beyond its own expansion. Like, it was at its core a borrowed power system, yes, and there was a lot of grinding behind it. If you wanted said borrowed power, yes. However, it was very specific to every single spec that was currently in the game as of Legion, because this is a Legion thing. And there was a lot of class flavor, a lot of work went into it on Blizzard's end to make each one feel unique. It made me learn every single spec. I hadn't done that beforehand. It made me want to learn every single spec. And I had a reason and a long-term, reward for it. Not just that I got the experience of learning every spec, but I got transmog. I got some of the most gorgeous weapons in game, and they're all like super legendary type, artifacts. That like the Ashbringer and Doomhammer and stuff like that. And some newer ones that are super cool. So anyway, S tier, love it. It goes beyond its own expansion, even though you can't physically do the power portion of it anymore. Artifacts are still in game. You can still get all but only a couple of the appearances. Definitely recommend it. Ashran! It looks like these are alphabetical. Alright, this is gonna be hard to say because hard to place. Ashran. I'm gonna do it this way. I'm gonna put it in C. And the reason is because when it first came out, I would have immediately put it in A or S tier. Maybe A tier. Because when it first came out, it was open world. You could just go in anytime, there was no queue, and I like that. As a primarily solo player, that was awesome to me. I liked having a specific area where I could go in, I could PvP solo if I wanted, I could snipe if I wanted, and there was objectives for me to do, and I could earn PvP type stuff. But then they added the queue system because people were whining about it being imbalanced or whatever, which it was open world PvP, so of course it was gonna be imbalanced. That's just how it is. All is fair in love and war, but apparently not in Warcraft. So the queue ruined it for me. I hate it. I don't like queued PvP. If I'm going to pick PvP, I like open world. I like freeform. I don't like needing a group to do PvP. I like the solo stuff. So I'm going to drop it to C because it's still a great battleground on its own. It's very chaotic. And I like the objectives and systems that it has in it. But queuing it just ruined it for me. Alright, moving on. So Azerite armor. Oh, I'm gonna put a solid B. I think Azerite armor at its core was pretty good. it was kind of boring because it didn't have as much flavor as I would have liked. It was a very, I don't want to say overbalanced, but it was one of those where they had to like balance the ever-loving shit out of it in order to make it not OP, so people didn't choose their bisses, you know. But they went too far, I think, and it made it lose its flavor. But on the other hand, it was very easy. It was easy to pick up. It worked well for what it was. I never had any problems with it. I liked some of the extra stuff that it did, like the like Long Strider was fun. I liked that they had speed options or healing options. And some of those traits did survive some of the cool ones, like Empyrean Power for Paladins. Love that one. It became a talent. Yeah, so Azure Armor, it's solid B. Means it's better than average, but, you know. Badge vendors. What are these badge vendors? Oh, for time walking. Yeah. A tier, definitely. I'm sure I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this. I like currency grinds. Let me stipulate that. Here's why. I like currency grinds because it feels like a grind with an end. It's not RNG. When it's not RNG based, there are some that are, but when it's not RNG based, I like them. And a lot of the currency grinds are not. They're a very set grind. You do X, you get X. You will complete in X amount of days after you put in X amount of work. It's not like, you know, maybe you'll get lucky. I hate that sort of grinding. It irritates the crap out of me. But badge vendors, that's kind of what that is. Assuming it's referring specifically to time walking. Those look like time walking badges in the image there. While grinding specifically through time walking dungeons is kind of a pain, there are other ways of getting those badges. And in fact, because I have a lot of alts, a lot of the stuff I ended up buying from just doing the you know, when you do time walking dungeons once, you get the first time quest for that time walking session, you know, for that week, and you get the 500 badges. If you do that like once on a bunch of alts, every time time walking pops up, like your second time walking that's 1,000, your third that's 1,500. That's how I bought everything. But I like that because it's very easy, and I saved a lot of time doing it that way. So anyway, Benthic gear. A tier. The reason I say A tier is because it was a catch-up system. The pearls were very easy to get. The gear was at a decent enough level, that item level that I did not feel like I had problems because I had stopped raiding at that point. So it was a great system for alts. The gear itself, the tokens for it were BOA. I could mail them to alts, so that was really nice. I didn't, you know, have to grind pearls on all my alts to get the gear. I could just do it on my main, which was great. And when there was overflow and I didn't need the armor itself anymore, I could just disenchant it because it was purple into the highest enchanting crystal at the time, whatever that was, I don't remember. And I made a lot of gold off of it that way from the excess. So I liked this system. I know a lot of people complained about the Benthic system because of the traits on it, but it was only specific to the Azshara Palace of Azshara raid or whatever it was anyways, which didn't affect me, but because of that, I like it a lot. BFA mission table, F tier. I hate the mission tables. I don't care what you get from the mission tables. They're very much a, I don't know, like a mobile game type sensation feeling for me, and I don't like those. So, meh. Brawlers Guild, C tier. It's fine. I do it for the mount, because when it's around, there's usually a new mount during the season that it's here. Hasn't been around in a while, but as soon as I get the mount, I'm done. I don't really care for it. It's fine. Challenge mode. Woo! Challenge mode. I'm gonna have to put in F tier. I hated it so bad. I hated it. Challenge mode, in case you don't know what that was, It was around in Mists of Pandaria and Warlords of Draenor. It's exactly what the name implies. Think of it, like, you know how we have Mythic Plus now and how, like, it scales higher and higher and it gets really hard? Think of the opposite of that, but you are the one that's being scaled. So, like, how you get scaled, like, when you turn Party Sync and stuff on, think of it that way. It scales down your... at least it did in MOP. I don't remember if it did in WoD for some reason. I pugged the WoD one, so like a lot of that was very horrid with very toxic people, so I blocked a lot of the WoD one out of my mind. But anyway, the MOP one I remember a little more freshly for some reason. Probably because I'm salty about that one, because I didn't get the rewards for it. But I have a lot of complaints about challenge mode. It was very stressful. It was one of those challenges that you either could do it or you could not do it, no matter how much you threw yourself against it. You really had to have a good team. You couldn't just, yay, you know, we're gradually progressing. At least from my experience, it just, you either were good at it or you were not, and your teammates could easily fail you. I also don't like needing to rely on other people to get things that are limited time. And that was my major complaint with the challenge modes, was the rewards from them were limited time. And, you know, a lot of people will never be able to get that stuff because they either weren't there or they couldn't do it for one reason or another. And it's, in my opinion, the worst iteration of dungeon challenges. Mythic Plus is so much better because it was challenge mode. And then we had like challenge mode gold type of thing. I did do that one in WoD. And then in, you know, we also had mythic dungeons in WoD. They weren't Mythic Plus yet. Mythic Plus came with Legion. And that, you know, kind of evolved from there. Affixes and stuff came in later. Anyway, challenge mode, gross, hate it. Currently time. Shockingly, I'm gonna put it at a B. And for those of you that know my channel, know that I am a hardcore leveling person, and I use Chromie time quite religiously. But because of that, I know its flaws. Chromie time, in my opinion, is a glorified quest board, I guess, because it doesn't actually scale you. It doesn't actually do anything. If you actually go look at the zones, you can still, with it off, go to every expansion at level 10. The entry requirements are the same. She just gives you the initial quest for it. The only thing she technically does for you is phase you into your own time, so that part is nice. So you're not there with high-level characters that can come gank you for no reason. It weeds that out, which is nice. But it also scales each zone up to, you know, whatever its current max level is. Like right now it's 50, it's going to be 60 here in a couple months, if not less. But it's a dynamic scaling system, and that can be kind of hard to play with because, you know, you'll come into one zone, you'll get X results out of it, but if you come back later at a different level, you're going to get different results. You can't, it's not static. That is the downside. Like, the plus side of a dynamic scaling system for leveling is you can go mostly wherever you want and still level in a somewhat reasonable amount of time, but the drawback is your results are never going to be the same, even if you do the same path. So, a lot of factors go into that. So, it's a good system. I think could be some things that could be done better about it. However, it's, you know, it's good for what it is. So, conduits, D tier. I'm not into borrowed power. I'm just not. I couldn't even name any of the conduits for you. Most of my alts don't even have the conduits fully activated. It's just enough to open up their covenant. Like, my main has his all done, but I think I only chose like the speed and health ones just because I don't care for that sort of stuff, because it's literally not going to matter at the end of this expansion. I get nothing out of it long term, and I don't like playing for short term. I'm not that sort of person. So, corruptions. Now, on the complete flip side of this, I'm going to say B tier. Now, the literal same reasoning I don't like conduits is the same reason I like corruption, so I know that's very hypocritical. But I think it's because corruption was wildly fun. It was very broken, really, is like people like to say. I thought it was fantastic. I liked corruption a lot. I mean, it's tempting to kind of put it in A tier. I wish it was still around. It was really, really fun. I liked, you know, I liked too that there were downsides to the corruptions. I like when there's a plus or a minus, a pro or a con to anything you do, because that feels extremely RPG-ish to me. And, excuse me. And there's not a lot of that in WoW. Like, everything you do, it's just like, oh, you know, here's your stats. There's no drawback. Like, they're adding some stuff like that in Dragonflight, but I like when there's a consequence to my actions, when there's a consequence to my choice, and corruption's provided a lot of that. You want unlimited awesome power and throw tentacles and tornadoes everywhere? Sure. But it's gonna drain your health a little bit here and there, or it's gonna spawn these things that might attack you, or, you know, there's a cost. And I like that, but I think that's just the old god in me, so. Covenants. I want to go C tier, honestly. And I'll stipulate it with this. The Covenants are super cool. At face value, I love the Covenant themes. I do wish there was more than 4, but I love the idea of the Covenants. I like the 4 different factions that we do have in each of them. They are gorgeous zones. I love the people NPCs that they've built for them. The transmog and the collections and the mounts and things are gorgeous for each one, very well themed. However, I don't like that it's so reclusive. I did not like the restrictions we had that still kind of have if you haven't already unlocked them. I don't like how exclusive they are with each other when you're supposed to be working together to save the Shadowlands, and yet you're literally working against each faction if you're not in them. I don't like that renown isn't shared among them. That feels tacky to me. Because again, we're supposed to be unified against the jailer, not, you know, fighting each other. I don't know. I just don't like that. That felt very anti-heroic to me. So, bleh. There's more I can say on that, but I think you get my point. Customer support? Why is customer... B tier. Customer support's fine. Why is it... That's weird to me. I've had both good and bad experiences with customer support, but that's a very business level thing. I wouldn't consider that a in-game system. Like, I guess it is, but it's fine. It's a people thing. Strange. B tier, I guess. Essence powers. I did do a lot of essence powers. I did like these. I'll put these in C tier, right between conduits and corruptions, because it's another bard power. A lot of them are still in game, and you wouldn't know that because, you know, no one talks about it. They just, I believe most of it you can only use in Battle for Azeroth zones. But you can still get a lot of them. I think it's just the legendary versions, just like an aesthetic version that you can't get anymore. Some of them might have been removed. I don't recall, but I know a lot of them are still there and you can still use them. I liked them because they did somewhat... Put it this way. If I'm gonna have borrowed power or something, you know, some sort of power that I need to put time into, I want 2 things from that system. A, I want it to last beyond the system of that expansion. I want to be able to keep using it even if I have to only use it in certain expansions, which they started doing. Unlike the artifact weapons, that's my one gripe about those. Those powers didn't get to stay, and even some of the classes got theirs removed. That's my major gripe with that. The essence powers didn't provide any long-term secondary reward. Artifact weapons, I got transmog, and I can mog that on my various classes. These did not. The essences do not grant that. There's no visual, like, you know, I have to have the power in the Heart of Azeroth on to use it. Like, and that's not the case with the artifact weapons. That's why that one's up there at S tier. So, these are fine, but oh yeah, and the other thing I like, the second thing is, I like a power that's going to change how I play. That makes me think about when I need to use it, how I'm going to use it, how it might change my rotation, not just, oh, I have another button on my bar. Like, and that's kind of what Essence Powers felt like. Conduits are very, very much that. In fact, a lot of them, most of them are passive from what I've seen. I'm sure there's some that aren't, but it's 2 background. If you're gonna give me something shiny, I want to see it. You know, corruptions were very much that. They did not at all last beyond the expansion, but boy were they fun. Garrisons. I want to put these in B tier as well. Oh. Yeah, I'll stick it in B. It's almost A. It's like an A-, a B+. Garrisons, I really like Garrisons because I like having my own personal space, my own customizable little area. But that's kind of the problem with Garrisons, is there was a lot of cut content. From just the whole expansion in general, but Garrisons, like, you were supposed to have the option to put your garrison in each of the zones. And you were supposed to be able to put your, from what I heard, your little house buildings, whatever, in different spots. It wasn't supposed to be so static like it is now. It was like almost borderline player housing is really what it was supposed to be. But it just, a lot of stuff got cut. There was a lot of turmoil going on within the company at that time, which was really a shame because it really put a damper on what would have been a really good expansion. But anyway, I like Garrisons for what they are. I still use them. I still use them on my main. You can have an auction house in them, a bank, you know, guild bank, personal bank, all that kind of stuff. There's training dummies. You know, you got your own mines, flight point. I like it. Anyway, glyphs. Ah, glyphs. I miss glyphs. Another B tier. I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'll keep them in B. Glyphs. They have a lot of different iterations of glyphs, but the version I'm gonna go with was the more recent one before they got taken out. Because glyphs, like in MOP at least, like in Miss Pandaria, they were actual, like, passive, sometimes active abilities. They affected your power and your abilities, but later they were relegated to just, what do you want to call it? Cosmetic appearances. Like, they would change how the color of whatever, you know, they changed how you look on certain things. So for classes, they changed form colors. It became very much a cosmetic sort of system. And that's the iteration I actually like more. To me, if they're gonna have power, keep that to my talents, keep that to my class. And then whatever the stupid borrowed power thing is, that I'm so glad they're not entirely continuing. You know, I liked glyphs. I wish they didn't take them out. I know it was kind of a dying system, but I wish they would have left it in and just let it limp along until they go to revamp it instead of pulling it out, because I lost a lot of visuals from that. Like, some of the glyphs are still in game, technically, but this system here, this picture that you're looking at that looks oddly familiar, Essence Powers, I liked this here. I liked having this option that I could turn on and off, and instead of just having an item that I stick in my spellbook to amplify something there, I like this specific system. Anyway, I wish they'd bring it back. I like customization on classes. Makes you feel more original. Hard mode, I guess I'll put in D tier. I'm not really into group content. I'm not really into challenge mode type stuff. I'm sure hard mode is great for some people. I'm not into it. I could honestly care less. Horrific Visions of N'Zoth. I did really like Visions. I'm gonna go with an A tier, actually. I really liked Visions. Oh. It's like A and B here. I'm having a hard time deciding. I might go ahead and put it in B tier. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in B. It's like almost an A. I liked Visions because A, you could do it by yourself. It was like a challenge mode or a Mage Tower type of thing where you could do by yourself, which I liked. I like solo challenges. I will accept those. Because I don't like needing to rely on other people to get something. Most of the rewards from the Visions are still available. There's only a couple of things that were taken out. It was just like the Mad World achievement, which was a title, which I did get. It was the Faceless one, I think was that title. That went away, which was just doing it solo. It was really hard. I had a hell of a time doing the Visions. But I thought it was kind of fun though, despite the pressure. and like, this is gonna sound funny, but it did. As long as I've played, I don't spend a lot of time in Orgrimmar or Stormwind. I'm always out in the world doing stuff. But the Visions themselves are set in a Old God N'Zoth corrupted version, same layout of Stormwind and Orgrimmar, and I learned the layout of those two cities really, really well because of the Visions. So now I can navigate the cities really well because I know every little nook and cranny. Because it wasn't just like, you know, you try to do the Vision as fast as possible. There was a lot of strategy in it, and like, it was also a currency grind. There were corrupted mementos, I think is what they were called. Off the top of my head, could be wrong. That you needed to collect out of this, and how you could do that was in multiple ways, and one of the ways was by collecting these little candles or whatever they were. I think they were candles. They might have been crystals, but they look like candles to me. And turning them into a guy before you leave the Vision. And they were in the craziest little nooks all over those cities. But anyway, I really enjoyed that. I'm also a big N'Zoth fan, so I might be a little biased. Yeah. Island Expeditions, A tier. Love, love, love the Island Expeditions. My only gripe is that they're timed. I really, really wish they were not timed and they were not set in a competitive sort of scenario. I am very happy we can do them solo now. I like them more that they can do them solo now. If they were still not soloable, I would probably put them down in C tier. But A tier, I can do them solo. I love the variety. I love the stuff that came out of them. I love the change they did to them later, where, because originally Island Expeditions, it really, really mattered what you killed. That would affect your loot greatly. Now it doesn't matter at all, you just complete it. That was a change they made, what was it, 8.3, I think? 8.2.5 maybe? And they added vendors instead, so you could just grind doubloons and then buy your mounts and stuff. So it's a little more direct, and I liked that a lot better. Really wish they weren't timed though. I just want to explore the islands, and you know, I'll still happily fill up my Azerite bar, but wish they weren't timed. But a lot of lore came from the Island Expeditions too, and that's how we learned about the Dragon Isles. I pointed this out in my theory video too. We learned that Rathian was searching for the Dragon Isles via the Island Expeditions. Everyone said I was crazy and that we would never go to the Dragon Isles, and yet here we are. They do hint at future expansions, guys. You just gotta look for it. You just gotta look for it. But anyway, moving on. Item levels. I'm gonna put that at a solid D tier. Hate them. I don't like item level. But I don't like power grinds. I don't like gear score. I don't care about, like, oh, you know, I wish it was just stats and not item level. I would not care if they removed. I would be actually quite happy if they removed item level. I don't like item level, never have. Wish they never put it in, but that was a result of people being like, oh, we need item level. And now they're like, oh, we need Raider IO so we can see how much people dungeon. Like, even though people can just buy it, it doesn't help. But whatever. I don't like it. And yes, in case you're wondering, I have raided my pants off. I raided hardcore for 6 years. From MOP to early BFA. I did heroic, mythic, whatever the highest was at the time. Leveled all the way through, I dungeoned and raided all the way through it. I did Mythic Plus when that came out. I did challenge mode. I solo pug tanked challenge mode gold Warlords of Draenor, okay? I know my shit. At least I used to. I still mostly do, so I know what I'm talking about when it comes to this stuff. Doesn't mean I have to like it. Legion Legendaries, A tier. A tier with a stipulation. I'll get to that stipulation in a second. Remember how I said with the borrowed power, if I'm going to have borrowed power, I want it to do 2 things. I want it to go beyond the expansion, and I want it to change how I play. Well, Legion Legendaries kind of do the first one. You can't use them anymore, which really kind of aggravates me. Like, you still have them, but their powers are disabled. But when they were active, they were amazing because they really, really changed how you play. I loved the Fire Mage ones. I loved the Marksman ones. I loved the Warrior ones. I always chose like the fun ones. Like Warriors had shoulders that would let you heroic leap twice. Like you do not realize how much of a difference that is, or just stuff like that. It was amazing. I loved the Druid ones. They felt fantastic. I love the ones that increased your range. They changed how you play, sometimes dramatically. And yes, I understand that people didn't like that because they weren't, they had to play differently and they had to get their best. But, best in slot. But in this case, I liked that because it felt like it was something worth fighting for, worth trying to go get. But then comes the gripe. The problem with the Legion Legendaries is they were RNG drops. Yeah, the RNG drops, and I pretty much never got the ones I wanted without religious grinding. And it was, because I have terrible luck with stuff, and it was just, I did most of my raids in Legion without the correct legendaries or any at all. Until, they did add a vendor, but it was way too late. It was like right at the end of the expansion. Way after everyone was done. It just... like, I know hindsight is 20/20, but I really do agree. They should have had a vendor at the very start. I am totally fine with stuff being RNG based if you have a non-RNG backup. That I am fine with. Like, fine, let me go out and do my Mythic Plus and my raids and, surprise me. Hey, I got my legendary gloves. Cool, they're so awesome. This changes how I play my marksman class. Yay! Awesome. I don't have to buy them now because that feels good. That feels good to me. Because, now I have all this currency and now I could buy the other legendary I like because while you're doing all this, you could be getting a currency. And then, that way if you don't get the thing you needed by the time you get the currency, you can just go buy it and not be stuck in the dark. But maybe be surprised and, you can buy a different one because you got the one you wanted with luck. That feels good to me. Not, the opposite of that, which is just terrible. But Legion Legendaries, how you obtained them was awful, but everything else about them was fantastic. I really wish they still worked. They were fun to use in time walking, and they just don't work anymore, and it's really frustrating. Legion mission table. Mission tables, don't like them. Looking for dungeon. A tier. Now this one, and then I'm going to put LFR in the same group. However, I have a hard stipulation on this. I don't like LFR. I'm doing these together because they're basically the same thing except one's for dungeon and one's for raids. I don't like LFR because of the people in it. I don't like, because we have to have no coordination. I'll get to LFR in a second. Let's do LFD first. Looking for dungeon. Why I have these in A tier is because as a solo player, this allows me to not have to group up with people. I can still go experience the dungeons even if they're not at their best, Fine. I can see it that way. I like it. I like that they allow solo players access to their raids and dungeons, even if you don't, you know, maybe you don't have a guild, maybe you don't have a group, maybe you don't like people, whatever. Or maybe you don't have time, you know? Not everyone has the time in the week to get a fully geared alt and keep up with the current whatever grind, you know, etc., etc. And that goes for both of these. However, I strongly dislike how LFR specifically is set up for raids. And that can go for dungeons too. So the way I would do this, I'm just going to throw this in here, is the reason I do LFD or LFR is for two things. Transmog and the story. Because the stories, you often will see like quests at the end of a zone that tell you to go do the dungeon. And you see the conclusion of that zone's story in the dungeon. Or, for LFR, the raid itself. You know, that's the conclusion of that patch, perhaps. Like, you know, most recent, we had the Sepulchre. That's when we go kill the jailer. You know, we see the culmination of that story, and it ends there in that raid. Now, I like that they allow us, as solo players, to go experience that. However, I dislike, like, it's a two-edged sword, because... two-edged sword, because on one hand, I like the accessibility. On the other hand, because of the accessibility, you get the worst people in that type of content. And that makes it not fun by itself, you know? Not great feeling. Not great feeling at all. So here's how I would have done it. If any of you have recently, or even, you know, not recently, done Exiles Reach, the dungeon at the very end is done really well, and I really, really want them to push that system out to other instance content. And what I'm referring to specifically is if there is no one else available, they will pull you in, and you don't need a full dungeon group. Oftentimes I do it alone. They will pull you into the dungeon anyway, and then the NPCs that are there help you. I really, really wish they had a story or mog mode only, if you will. I don't care about gear. I don't care about progression. I just want the transmog, and I want to see the story. If they had at least a story only mode where I go in, maybe I'm there with NPCs, so like in Sepulchre, it could be like I'm there with Jaina and Uther and, you know, all the people that we saw there. Sylvanas was there. I think she helped for that. That would be really cool. And we go through in a very immersive story-based thing. And if I wanted to bring a couple friends, it's a dynamic system. Just like the Exiles Reach dungeon is. It's very free-form. And it doesn't force you even into specific specs, necessarily. Like, it kind of does, but it's just generic. Like, I think Priest is the only one that defaults to Healer. Just because 2 of their 3 specs are Healer. But, you know, at that level, it doesn't even matter. But I like that, though. Because you just go in, and you're just there to do it. You're not there to get the gear, you know? So I guess I'll rant over, I guess. But that's what I'd like to see on that. I would love that. And because of that potential and the continued accessibility, that's why they're in A tier. I do not want these to go away, but I would like to see them improved greatly. Moving on, I think I've rambled enough on that. Let's take a drink here. Mythic plus cash. Oh boy, this one, I'm gonna put it a solid C. Solid C. Because on one hand, I do not care about gear score, power progression. I could not give a rat's ass. I'm done with those days. I'm sick of it. Got over it real quick. I never liked it to begin with, but, you know, I'm not a competitive player. I don't feel the need to be powerful. I just like looking cool and playing with my various cool-looking characters in a world that I am deeply attached to. I'm an RPGer, not a raider. But anyway, On the other hand, this is a good system despite its flaws of RNG. I think I like the let's see, the Shadowlands version probably the best personally, with its different let's see. Is that version in here the Great Vault? It is. Okay, I'm gonna pull that one up right there, because those are basically the same thing in my mind. There's different versions. The Mythic Plus Cache, and the Great Vault. Mythic Plus Cache came beforehand, and I think in BFA specifically it also was where you looted your weekly PvP stuff as well. I did some of that occasionally. But these are rewards to, you know, additional rewards to doing content for the week. You know, you do X, you get a chance or choices at certain loot, and I think that is good incentive. I don't care for them myself. I like the Great Vault better if I had to choose between the two, because this one gives you some options at least. And you can do it in different forms. If you do everything, you get 9 different choices. Mythic Plus Cache, back in Legion at least, was awful. I have terrible luck, and it was very luck-based. I would never get the pieces I needed. And sometimes I would repeatedly get the same piece over and over, and it was really frustrating. But, you know, necessary evils, I guess. Mage Tower, A tier. Absolutely, absolutely A tier. You know what? Maybe even S tier. I'm gonna put that up in S tier. I loved the Mage Tower. I haven't done the new version of it yet, just because I haven't had time, mainly. I know they're scaled really hard, too. I don't like the current version of the Mage Tower, personally, because the Legion version, when it was originally out, you could use a lot of different items within the Mage Tower scenarios to help you. You could use different legendaries, you could use different items, like I had some trinkets from WoD that do extra damage against demons. That was very, very handy for the Imp Queen, whatever she was, fight, because there's just demons everywhere. Or like, you know, different elixirs and stuff that helped. You could do that, and a lot of that you can't do in the newest iteration. So I would say that I don't know if they have a second version in here, I don't see it. But there is 2 different Mage Towers, honestly. The new one is very, very restrictive. You can't use legendaries in it, you can use like food and flasks and stuff, but you can't use the trinkets, you can't use the old elixirs and stuff I used to use. You can't, it's very, 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 very restricted. And I like utility items. If I'm gonna go at a challenge, I want to feel equipped. Not necessarily because of power, but I like having stuff at my disposal. Like feel like I've earned it in a way. Like, yes, I had this, this, and this, and I used them at the right time. I did it, and it helped me, and I completed the challenge because of it. Can't really do that with the newest version, but so this Mage Tower that I'm putting in S tier, is the Legion version. Also, please bring back Mage Tower appearances for the artifact weapons. I have all 36 of them, but it is not fair to new people who can't get them now. I think that's lame. But anyway, Mop Farm. I'll put it in D. This is referring specifically to Sunsong Ranch over in Valley of the Four Winds. They're at the Tiller's place. Forget what it's called. I never use it. I didn't really care for it. It's like a garrison before a garrison was a thing, but just the farming part of it, like just the herbs and ore. Like, you can plant different types of stuff, and like you can have little helpers and things, but I think it's extremely boring. It's just like a Matt's farm, a material. It's literally a farm. I'm not really into that. Not my thing. Mop Legendary Cloaks, A tier. Loved them. Because these, like I have said, if you're gonna give me borrowed power, give me something that lasts beyond an expansion and it changes how I play. I don't recall how they changed how I play because I was still very new to WoW and MoP. I started in vanilla, but I didn't play hardly at all until MoP. And the legendary cloaks, I don't recall the abilities they did, but they look gorgeous, and kind of like how you can see in this little thumbnail here. They had cool back effects. Like one was like Yu'lon's wings, one's like the crane fiery looking wings. They did cool stuff. They were gorgeous. They had little proc effects, and I like that stuff, and you can still equip them if you have them. And, you know, they still do that. But they took them out. I mean, like, if you have them, they're still in the game, but you can't go get them anymore if you don't have them. I don't like when they take that out. And not only did they removed you can tell, I strongly dislike when they remove content. I strongly dislike it because I love sharing my experiences with other people. And the legendary cloaks from Mists of Pandaria were awesome. I don't like Mists of Pandaria very much as an expansion, but there are parts of it I loved, and the legendary cloaks and the storyline behind it and the cool access it gave us to the Ordos Temple area on Timeless Isle was all very cool, and you can't do any of that now if you don't already have it from that expansion. Because they removed it. I don't know why. I don't like it. Moving on. Mythic Plus. C tier. I don't hate it. I think it's the best iteration of challenge mode type dungeon-y things that they've had to date. It does, to me, get a little stale. I did a lot of it in Legion. I did some in BFA before I retired from competitive play. I think it gets a little stale after a while because it's the same dungeon over and over, but I'm also not very competitive. I don't care about power progression or gear or any of that, so that's probably why it gets boring to me, because I wouldn't be there for those reasons. But a lot of people that like those challenges, I think Mythic Plus is very well. It's a good system. But for me personally, it's a C. Good system, so I can't argue against it, but I'm not into it, personally. Need Greed, F tier. Hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it. It brings so much toxicity to people like you have never seen. And if you have seen it, you know what I'm talking about. I don't miss it. I hate that they're bringing it back. Don't like group loot. Group loot sucks. Don't like it at all. And I saw personal loot on the same note. I'm going to put that up in A tier. Because personal loot, while it, technically works almost the same, there's just no visual rolling. Personal loot does it for you. And if you want to trade, you can. My only complaint about personal loot is if you don't have a piece of gear that is higher, the gear, like say you got a cloak. If you don't have a cloak higher item level wise than the cloak that you just got, and the cloak is an upgrade for you, you can't trade it. Which I think is stupid. I don't like that restraint on it. I think personal loot should just drop as it is, but allow you to trade freely. It also allows for gear stacking, which I think is a good thing, because it allows groups and raids to work together collaboratively and be like, okay, we want to stack up and gear all of our leather wearers. Let's stack our leather wearers together so we can get all of our leather gear quicker. That's collaborative effort that I appreciate in a group setting. Okay, I used to raid lead back in WoD. I know how collaborative stuff works. And the more camaraderie you can have, the more work togetherness you can have, the better. And I really wish I had personal loot back in WoD. Anyway, that's kind of the opposite of what Need Greed group loot is, honestly. Need Greed, not great, don't like it. Because it makes people think that there's now competition. You're rolling against each other visually, and they think they need everything, whether they need it or not, just at a chance at getting something, which then can rob other people, you know, of what they might actually need. And that's the thing too. Maybe they're there for transmog. This completely undermines transmoggers. It's really... I've been heckled over that system many times. Numerous times. Back when it was in. I don't miss it, and I'm not looking forward to it returning. I'm probably not going to bother going into group content until it's gone again, because I hate it. Not fun. Moving on. Netherlight Crucible. I'm gonna have to put that in C tier. Only because I remember liking it. But it must not have been a very great, like, memorable system, because I don't remember what it did. I know it was a borrowed power type of thing, specifically for Argus, and that, you know, time period in the Legion expansion. And that's the thing, I was raiding a lot at that point. I was doing Heroic. Never got as far into Mythic as I wanted. But I was doing Heroic, Normal and Heroic, and I know the Netherlight Crucible was important. But I don't remember anything that was on it. I remember it being very cool, because, like, on one hand, it's like, it's the name, literally. You had, like, the Void on one side, and you had the Naru on the other. Nether and Light. Void and Light. Super cool. Super cool in concept. I don't remember what it did, but so I remember liking it, so I'm sure it wasn't bad, but I don't remember what it did, so it must not have been memorable, so I guess that makes it C tier. New talent system. Old talent system. Is there a Dragonflight talent system? Are they referring to the new talent system coming with Dragonflight? Because that is very similar to the old talent system, but I think it's a better iteration of it. I don't see the Dragonflight one in here. So I'm going to assume this is the tic-tac-toe one like the picture shows. C tier. It's fine. I don't like it does its job. So this would be our current talent system that we have before Dragonflight comes out, since I think that's what they're referring to. It's just a glorified tic-tac-toe board. I don't like the choices on it. A lot of those abilities I really think should have been baked into your class. And the opposite of that, I don't like that they often take stuff that was baked into your class and gut it out and put it on the talent system, so you have to choose between two things that you used to be able to do simultaneously. I don't like that at all. But otherwise it's fine, I guess. Old talent system. Probably would have liked it better, so I'm going to put this up on B. And I'm going to stipulate this way. I did not play much from vanilla to Kata. I played, but not much. Like, very, very rarely. I did not experience the old talent system very closely. Like, I didn't get very far with it, so I can't speak to the old talent system specifically. But I have been told, and from what I have seen, the new Dragonflight version of the talent system is very similar, and it is indeed, in my opinion, a better iteration of that old system. So I'm going to put it at B tier because I like talent trees way more than I like this tic-tac-toe thing. Now I say way more, even though they're both in B and C right next to each other. Just because this is referring to the old original ones. I don't have enough experience with them to say that they're better. I would say the Dragonflight one would go way up here in A. I like it a lot, but I'm gonna put that one in B. N'Zoth Legendary Cloaks. I think C tier. I love Rathian. I loved the N'Zoth stuff. I loved the visions and everything with it. I liked how the cloaks worked with the visions and you could upgrade them and stuff. But it was very... Now they do give you appearances, so they do give you something that lasts beyond the expansion. And they did change how you play, but not much. Like, it was only really for specific things. It was very specific to the visions, and the N'Zoth fight specifically. Otherwise, it was like a stat stick outside of those. And because of that, it was fine. It was fun to get. I liked it. I didn't hate it at all. But it was fine. Could have been a little better, but you know. Order halls. Ugh. I want to go up higher. S tier. Absolutely S tier. Order halls. What these are, if you don't know, they're still in the game, so you can go do these. They didn't remove these, thank goodness. Class order halls from Legion. They need to do more with them. They are so good. Like, and that's the funny thing. There's not a lot to them. There's not like customizable stuff you can do with them. But the point is, it's flavor, it's immersion, and it gives each class a presence that you can physically see in the game. It's not just this anomalous shaman force spread about. It's not just, oh, there's druids here and there. Paladins have always kind of had Light's Hope, but it's always been this dinky, ugly little thing, you know, up there. But actually, the Paladin order hall is like underneath it, and it's large and beautiful, and that's actually what's shown here in the thumbnail. That's the altar and like the cathedral area. It's gorgeous. Netherlight Temple is literally out in space for the priests. It's gorgeous. If you haven't done any of them, I will not spoil the storylines for you, but each one has a very specific storyline, very lore heavy. Love it. Need to do them. I want them to make these relevant again. Please, please, please. Please do that. They're so good. And you get like class mounts out of them. There's like a class armor set and everything. Everything I love. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Pathfinder. I know some people are going to hate me, but I am actually going to put this all the way in S tier. I know, I can hear the hate now. The boo! You suck, Kraken. I know, like, everybody, their grandmother hates Pathfinder. I love it. Absolutely love it, and I think it's a fantastic system. Here's why. Here's my reasons, and I don't care if you don't agree, because it's my opinion, it's not yours. One, the original Pathfinder, I am excluding we'll put it the stipulation first before I give my reasons. I am excluding the Shadowlands version because Shadowlands did not actually have a Pathfinder. The Pathfinder that I'm assuming this is referring to is the achievement that was in WoD, Legion, and BFA. Those three had Pathfinder achievements. Shadowlands does not actually have a Pathfinder achievement. You just go do like X level of renown, you do like your 9.0 Covenant story, and then you do like, what is it, like chapter 2 or 3 or something of the Korthia, and then suddenly you have your flying unlocked. Like, that, lame. Lame. Not actually Pathfinder. Pathfinder, I really liked because it was like a big meta achievement. First of all, it was content that I already do. It involves reputations, quest lines, like, I don't even remember everything that was on it. Let me look one up real quick. Let's see here. Wow. Let's look at the BFA Pathfinder, because I know that one's still... I think they're all technically still in the game, but the BFA one is the one that you still technically need. BFA Pathfinder. Let's look at what's in this. Exploration. You need earn revered with all reputations, do X amount of world quests, looks like it's 100 in this one. You need Lore Master, which is really easy. You just do the zones. And then, let's see, Ready for a War. We'll complete the war campaign. And then you have part 1, and then part 2. You need part 1 and explore Nashatar and Mechagon, and then some more rep. Easy stuff. Stuff you're going to be doing anyway, whether you're a raider or, you know, someone who likes, like me, would rather just collect the stuff. It's all easy stuff. It's like the core, it's the guts of the game. It's what's already going to be there. It's stuff I'm already doing anyway. And so that's reason one. It's not something that's hard. It's very easy stuff. Stuff you can usually get very quickly, in my opinion. And the reason two, it's account-wide unlock. If you have more than one character, that Pathfinder, once you do it once, all of your alts can fly there. And you don't have to be level 40, 50, 60, whatever to fly there. If you can get to that zone, you have Pathfinder unlocked already, and you are like, say, in this time period, level 30. 30 is the earliest you can currently fly. You can fly there. It's not like the olden days where you needed cold weather flying. You needed Mist of Pandaria flying. You needed special licenses. And I know this probably goes over a lot of people's heads that didn't play in the older expansions, but you needed special licenses to fly in every single expansion, in addition to the different speeds. And we used to have 3 different speeds, not the 2 we have now. You had 1 for every expansion and 3 different speeds per character. You know how expensive that gets? You had to literally ship print gold just to have a small, like, just imagine having 1 of each class. That's it. Like, you're a raider, you want to be well-rounded, you should have 1 of each class. That's good. You know, that way you can roll with the punches regardless of what kind of class changes come. That's what I did, and it worked out very well. Just having those, it was so expensive, and it was frustrating, and I hated it. So when Pathfinder was announced, I was so happy because it's content that I already did, and it's unlocked forever. I never have to worry about flying there, unlocking flying specifically there again. It's just done forever. Done, 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 done. Like, I like systems like that. Let me work a little harder for something that's permanently unlocked forever no matter what. I am perfectly fine with that. And I think the people that hate it because maybe it's content they don't like doing. Which, to me, the only people that don't like doing anything else are the people who just play WoW to raid and do dungeons. I don't have anything against you, but it's those people that probably hated it, because if you don't like the story in WoW, you don't like the quests, if you don't like the transmog, if you don't like the reputation, I hate to ask, but why are you playing? Because that's like the core of World of Warcraft if you really think about it. The exploration as well. I think Treasures was on one of them at one point. I think Treasures were in the WAD one. Also really easy. So, anyway, that's Pathfinder. Moving on. We're already at an hour. I knew this one would be long, but it's alright. PvP cache. Here's that they have this separate, although I guess at separate times it's been in separate places. I'll put this right next to M+ and the Great Vault. Same thing, same feelings. You already heard my reasoning on M+ and the Great Vault. It's fine. Does the same thing. It's weekly loot. Extra reward for doing X content. It's fine. PvP vendor! A tier! If not S tier. In fact, we'll go S tier. We'll go A tier, because I have a stipulation that really bothers me on that one. PvP vendor. PvP vendors are wonderful, because I don't like the progression loot forced system that they added for BFA. I have always liked vendors for stuff. It's the same reason I like currency vendors and the badge vendors, wherever they are. But PvP vendor here is, yeah, it's right there, badge vendor, is here in A because PvP gear is often very gorgeous. I love collecting transmog, and I don't like PvP in instanced PvP. I like world PvP. I like the chaotic, totally unplanned, completely unbalanced world PvP. I like that. That's fun to me. And PvP vendors allow you to spend your currency for that you get from PvP, however you do it, and get the gear. You're not required to go do rated battlegrounds or 2s or 3s to get that armor. Like, nah, sure, yeah, if you want the elite stuff, obviously. I'm just talking about the stuff you can buy off the vendor, like the regular stuff. You know, the gladiator and combatant stuff. So, yeah, I like collection grinds with an end in sight. I put in X work, I get X reward, not RNG stuff. And that's why PvP vendor is there instantly at A tier. PvP vendor upgrades. I guess I'll throw this in C. I have nothing against the system, but I never use it because I don't care. This is just me. I don't care for item level. I've used it a couple times just because I had extra honor to blow, but I don't really actively seek it. I'm sure it's great for those who have been using it. It seems like it would be. I used to do a lot of PvP in Mop and WoD, and then when towers were a thing in Legion, I did a lot of open world PvP. War mode shockingly didn't come until BFA, but anyway, I don't really have much to say on vendor upgrades. Reforging, F tier, hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it. I was required to use this in Mists of Pandaria when I raided, and hate it so much. I know a lot of people are like, oh, bring Reforging back, but I hate it because it was such... It felt so restrictive. I guess I could put it that way. Because when you got a new piece of gear, and this is, if I recall, the reason they removed it to begin with. When you got a new piece of gear, you weren't, half the time at least for me, and a lot of other people I knew, you weren't rejoicing at getting that piece of gear. You were inspecting the crap out of it and going, okay, I have to reforge this. I have to gem this. I have to enchant this. That was back when, like, you had all that on everything. And the thing with reforging specifically is if you reforged one of your pieces, because all it was changing your stats around, and it was very expensive. It got more and more expensive the more you used it, which was another gripe. If it was free, I might not have minded too much, but it was definitely not free. No, I probably still would have hated it, even if it was free. Because I had to spend a lot of time trying to figure out what the best thing was, even with things like Noxic and Thoughtbot and Raidbot or whatever they were called at the time. I don't even remember what I was using. Mr. Robot, I think that was the one I used most frequently in MoP. Because every time you reforged one piece, it would shift your stats around, and then you had to suddenly reforge all these other pieces. And it was just this puzzle of annoyance. And I don't like puzzles. I don't like forced costs. I don't like having to take a reward that should be a reward and make it work when I should just be able to put it on. Like, that's my gripe. I don't like it at all. I don't care if you love it. I hate it. Rune forging. B tier? B for potential? Rune forging's cool, but there's not a lot to it. I'm kind of surprised it's in here at all, honestly. I kind of forget about it most of the time. It's a very cool system, but I wish it had greater impact. I've always viewed it really as just weapon enchants for DKs. That's really all it is. I really wish that you could actually, like, forge new weapons with it and, like, make new rune blades. Like, lore-wise, you do. But in-game, you don't. You just kind of put a new enchant on your weapon. So, like, lore, story, and flavor-wise, rune forging is amazing. But the system, I think, vastly needs to improve. Scenarios. I didn't like scenarios. If you've never done them, they are still in game. You can access them in Mists of Pandaria in the Vale, up in the Lore Walker area. One of the Pandaren NPCs in there can queue you for them. But they're like a 3-man dungeon, but it's literally a scenario. Like, you know how you do like the WoD intro scenario and you go through like this little scripted story? Like, they're so long and they were really boring to me. I didn't like them at all. I did a lot of them too. I didn't like them. Still don't. I had to do a couple recently to do some achievements, and don't like them. Not into them. They're just as long and boring as I remembered. Shadowland Legendaries. D tier. I think I made like one. The powers the Legendaries had were not appealing to me. I know a lot of people have griped about how expensive the whole system was. Luckily, I didn't fall into that trap because I didn't care. I don't really like how you have to go get the memories for them. Like, I like that you can craft them. I don't know. It just feels weird to me. It feels janky. I don't like how the system works. Personally, I don't really have much more to say beyond that. It doesn't really change how I play. It doesn't really give me anything visually. Like, at least the Legion ones you got, they were really potent. They really changed how you played your class, and they gave you the transmog. Like, most of them weren't any piece that was really significant. They were just a lot of stuff that was already in game. But you could at least get the transmog from it if you didn't have it. You can't do that from the Shadowland ones, which is really a bummer because the Shadowland ones are gorgeous. You can get them, like, I think that appearance comes out of the Sanctum raid, but, like, still, that's dumb. Shadowlands mission table. Don't like mission tables. Gross. Shards of Domination. I can't really speak to this one because it's pretty much like Legendaries. None of it was intriguing enough for me to feel like I wanted to go try it out. I had one, and it was only because I got it from a raid while I was in LFR for some mog. I equipped it, and then never really did anything with it. I think it was just a leech one or something. I can't speak to it. Didn't use it enough. They didn't seem interesting. So because of that, D tier. Teacherary stats. I want to put these in probably B tier. I think teacherary stats are way more interesting than the main stats. And the teacherary stats that I'm talking about are like leech avoidance, like they're showing here. Speed is another one. I like those. I like stuff because that affects how I play. I like speed stacking. I loved getting a whole bunch of leech on a tank because it felt awesome, because no matter what I did, I would constantly be leeching health, and it was super fun. I don't really care too much for avoidance, but I'm sure there's ways you can abuse that too. I like those. I think they're cool. I wish they would do more with them and get a little more wild, but I know people would complain, so like they always do. Moving on. Torghast. That's spelled wrong. Is that spelled wrong? That's spelled wrong. Torghast. Yeah! It's Thorghast here. They spelled it wrong. That's okay. I was like, Thorghast? Yeah. It's okay. I'm gonna say I'll put it in B tier. I haven't actually done as much Torghast as I would like because I just haven't had the time for it. But what I have done, I like. I think it's very similar to the Visions, but there's more depth to it. I like that there are transmog rewards. I strongly dislike the scoring system they added. That was a major turnoff for me. Otherwise I would have put it up in A, but I don't like scores. The reason I really liked Torghast initially was because it was very freeform. I just went in, I did my thing, I could take as long as I wanted. I mean, like, there were debuffs and stuff, but that was fine. I could handle those. And then just, you know, as you climb the layers, they would get harder. I like that they shortened the layers a little bit. They feel a little, you know, tighter now, but the draw to me was the exploration, the slight randomness of the halls, and the, you know, just the openness of it, which has been kind of negated a little bit. It's not that anymore, so I like it less now because of that. So, it's fine. It's fine. Threads of Fate. I'm gonna put that in B tier. Threads of Fate majorly has flaws, but I appreciate that they tried something new. Threads of Fate, what it is it's what allows you to quest in any of the Shadowlands zones in any order. You get to skip all the RP, you skip the story. But the problem with that is the Shadowlands campaign stories in the zones are some of the best parts of it. However, they're really, really slow. And you can't skip a lot of the RP and dialogue, and it makes it really redundant after a while because of that. So they separated it. But I don't like that they're separate. I really wish they just would have removed the, I don't know, requirements, I guess, the gates in each of them, and allowed you to move on to the next zone whenever you wanted to, instead of forcing you to kind of go all the way through it and hit a certain level. You know, because then it feels like you're trudged and forced at that point. But otherwise, it was a good attempt, and they're making a 10 times better version of that for the Dragonflight expansion, because we technically already kind of have that freeform in Legion. You can do each zone separately. Each zone has a wonderful story. Each zone can be done in any order, and it still makes sense, and all the stories fit together thematically for that expansion. So they're taking that, they're taking Threads of Fate and merging them together into something better and adding them into the Dragon Isles, and I approve. So Threads of Fate's fine. It was something I think that they needed to test before they could improve. So that's how it is sometimes. Tier sets. Okay, I have mixed feeling about tier. I really have mixed feelings about tier. Let me take a sip here. Tier sets. I have mixed feelings. Excuse me. Getting choked up thinking about it. Tier sets. Oh boy. I'm gonna put these in B, because I think it's the troubled child of World of Warcraft, and here's why. On one hand, I love that we have what the tier sets bring, which is some customization for your play style. Like, at least how they used to be. Some of them are kind of lame, but they would give you a set that you could build together, once you hit certain tiers, hence the names. And, like, if you got your 2 set or your 4 set or whatever it is for the time, it's been different over the expansions. And when you reach those sets, if it wasn't a lame power, it would change how you played. Like, some of my favorite were actually from WoD. They really changed how your class played, and I appreciated that. So I like that. I don't like that the loot is random from raids. I've always hated that, and that makes me dislike tier sets a little bit, because I like having things that I can work for with a set reward date. I put in X work, I get X reward. Like, imagine going to your job, your career, your job, where you get money, and you put in your time each week, and what you get paid is random. It has no, the time you put into it has no effect. That's how I look at it. That's how it feels to me. If I put in X amount of time, I should get X reward. Because, I put X amount of time in higher difficulties, I should get higher difficulty X reward. Fine. But that's why I don't like tier, because I rated from MOP to BFA, and from MOP to Legion at least, we had tier sets. And oftentimes, I would not get the complete tiers that I needed. I would not get all the pieces I needed to complete my set, because it just wouldn't drop. Or I'd lose out on a roll. It just boils my blood. Well, and I'm not just complaining for the sake of complaining. I was a main tank or a main healer in all of those. And that's a kind of a guild thing. But anyway. So that rub, of how they're obtained really taints the idea of tier sets for me. And I do have another complaint. While I love that they're for each class, I don't like that the transmog, for a lot of them, is class specific. Some of it you can transmog in other classes. Like, take the warrior sets from Legion that are tier sets. A lot of them have what I call off-brand or off-tier set pieces, which is the same piece, but you can transmog it on another class because it wasn't a tier item, but it's the same transmog visual. Fine, but you can't get the whole set. Like, maybe it's the shoulders, or the helmet, or the gloves, or something silly. And you can't get the whole set, and that just irritates the crap out of me. I don't like that restriction, transmog-wise. So I've said a lot of negative about tier sets, so it's very mixed feelings, because I like that they're there, I like that they exist, but I don't like the restrictions, and I don't like how you obtain them. So I know I rambled on that for a good few minutes, but that's tier sets. And I know they're coming back for Dragonflight, so I'm probably not going to be getting them unless you can get them outside of raids. I've heard that you might be able to, so that's cool. Anyway, time walking. I'm going to put this in C, and here's why. When time walking came out, I loved it. I loved why it came out, and like, I don't like the version of it now because it's level restricted to level 50 only. Time walking is the time walking dungeons, and they added a couple of raids. I'm talking specifically more for the dungeons. I like that they've added the raids. I'll probably never do them, but I like the dungeons. But the thing with time walking is when they first came out, they were advertised, and I used it this way as well, to allow you to level in lower content in lower dungeons with low-level friends while on your max level character because it would scale you. I liked that. Okay? But they removed that. That was literally one of the features of time walking for a long time. And it was awesome. It's a great alternative to leveling. Still technically is, but only for level 50 plus. You can't actually do the dungeon. Like, I don't understand why they removed it. It was so ninja, and that really bugs me, because I keep going, I would love to do time walking on my low-level characters, but I can't. So, I think that's lame. So, it's a C. Dropped it to a C, because they ruined it, personally. The appeal for it to me, that I just talked about, was removed. And so, to me, it's no different than any other regular dungeon. It just comes around randomly. Titan Forging. Is War Forging in here? No, but it's the same thing. Titan Forging. A tier. I don't care what people say. I liked it. I liked that it was rewarding. Now see, here's the thing. I liked that it was random because it was a random, small reward. It could increase, the item level. It can increase the epic level. It could go from like epic to, it could go from like blue to purple. It can go, from green to blue, or maybe even all the way up to purple. Some of it still exists. It's usually called War Forging, but it's kind of the same thing. Titan Forging. It's taken a few different names over the years, but Titan Forging, I liked getting that sudden reward. I liked the excitement because I, even as a raider, did not feel pressured to waste my time grinding world content or dungeons over and over and over just to try to get all of my gear Titan Forged. That is obsessive. And that's why people were complaining, because they said they felt forced to do that. And I'm like, whoa, you're taking that way out of context. It is supposed to be a little extra boost, a little extra, hey, you got a slightly better item than normal. Neat. That's kind of all there was supposed to be to it. But as usual, people blow things out of context and ruin it for everyone else, so. I liked it. Alright, Transmog, S tier. If there could be anything that was more S tier than S tier, Transmog. Transmog is one of the reasons I play this game. I'm not making that up. I did not like... You want to know the reason? A little secret. Come a little closer. A little secret here. You know the reason I didn't like vanilla to Kata very much? I know Transmog came in... It was either Wrath or Kata. Trying to remember. But Transmog didn't come around for a while. I didn't like those older expansions because they didn't have any system of collecting things. I like collecting. I like collecting armor and appearances especially, and weapons. I love that stuff. Love it, love it, love it. And every game I play, I collect all the armor, gear, clothes, skins. I love that sort of stuff. You know, that's my jam. And the old expansions didn't have any of that. Account-wide bounce didn't come until Miss Pandaria. Transmog was either like Wrath or Kata. Don't remember which one. But it was one of those two. You know, stuff like that. I didn't like the other expansions because of it. I like new WoW better than old WoW. Yes, I know. Bite me. Transmog, S tier. Enough said. Warfronts. I'm gonna put these at a B. I really liked Warfronts. I think a lot more than most. I really liked how they felt. I know a lot of people complained about them. They did get a little stale after a while because the shelf life wasn't great. I wish they had more variety. I wish they had gone through with the Barrens and Ghostlands Warfronts that I had seen in the list at one point they were going to do. I don't know how far they actually got on doing them, but they didn't. I wish they would have done a lot more. If we had like 6 to 10 different Warfronts to choose from, and when they were available was more static, I would like them a lot more. But the Warfronts themselves, I enjoyed. Even with the a-holes that came with it and the AFKers that became an immediate problem. And by the way, yes, you could lose Warfronts on normal. Heroic you could obviously lose, but everyone kept saying, no, you can't lose normal, so everyone's just gonna AFK. You can actually lose them. I did lose them because we would have, it got so bad, people thinking you could just AFK it. No, you can't actually lose your base because you would have too many AFKers. And it was those people, I think, that ruined it. When everyone worked together, I had a blast. That's why I kind of enjoyed the heroic ones more for the first time, like, ever. Because everyone was working together, and it was fun. We could coordinate, you know, where we would go. I don't know, it was like a different take on a raid, and I really liked them. I wish that they could bring them back and somehow just, I don't know, spice them up for the people that didn't like them more, but I really liked them. I miss doing them. I wish I could do them solo. I know they dropped the entry requirement to 5 people, but that doesn't help me any. I liked Warfronts, but anyway, War of the Draenor Legendary Rings. I'm gonna put these in C tier. They were fine. They were useful. They did change how I played, so they took one of the 2 checkboxes there, but I didn't get anything beyond the expansion with them. In fact, you can't even use them anymore. I mean, you can put them on, but they disabled the effects. I like how they worked with other classes, because I was a healer a lot at the late end of Warlords of Draenor when I was raid leading. Sometime tank, but usually healed. And I liked that the healer rings worked together, you know. You could time when you were going to use them, and, you know, they would buff each other if X amount of people had them, etc., etc. That was cool. But after the expansion was over, in the bank they went, and I never touched them again, because it just... except for time walking. You can use them in time walking, but that's another gripe that I forgot to talk about. Maybe I talked about it. You used to be able to use legendaries and stuff in time walking before they broke all the legendaries. But anyway. Meh. Nothing exciting from the Draenor Legendary Rings. WoD Mission Table. F tier. I know a lot of people liked it for the gold, but that's it. You could get some mounts from it. You can get the legendary. You could get the heirloom rings from it, but I don't like them. I don't like that type of play. I just don't. I did some WoD mission table stuff, but I did not farm it for gold. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't care. So, yeah. World quests, A tier. With a stipulation. I think the BFA world quests and the emissary system from BFA is the best iteration of world quests that we've had in the 3 expansions that we've had them in to date. I like that one the best. I think the Shadowlands one is basically just dailies. The callings are just dailies. I don't like how they're literally just dailies. The world quest ones from Legion are okay, but it was the first iteration. You know, they needed a little extra love. But I think the BFA ones were the best. They were quick, snappy content that was easy to do, and there was a lot of it. It was just there for, like, if you wanted to put in the time for some extra rewards, here you go. It wasn't anything like, it's not meant to be like the best content ever. It's just something to do. And isn't that the point of a video game? So I think because of that system, it fills that niche. It gives you something to do out in the world that changes daily, you know, and it's different than just dailies because you're going out and just doing something and then coming back and turning into one person. You don't have to pick up the quest, at least in BFA and Legion, beforehand. You just go do it, and you could do it based on the faction you wanted to do it on. Each world quest was themed a little differently, and I like them. I like world quests. Daily quests, C tier. Well, I'll put them in B. I'm not a big fan of dailies. However, I have said before that I like currency grinds, and I like putting in X amount of work and getting X reward in X amount of time. Daily quests fill that niche. But that's a very broad term, just saying daily quests, because like Miss Pandaria daily quests, hated them. Legion daily quests, I don't think we even have any Legion dailies. No, it was just world quests. We had some, but it wasn't like, you know, actual dailies. Yeah. Wrath dailies, except for Argent Crusade. I liked the Argent Tournament. That's what it was. The Argent Tournament. I liked that. Liked that a lot. It's progressive. So I don't know. Mixed feelings on dailies. They work fine for what they are. I like stuff that will keep you coming back. So. Flexible rating. That's supposed to be flexible, I think, but flex. Back in my day. Back in my day. Some of you who are older raiders might remember this, because the very last flex raids were in Miss Pandaria. You might notice if you've done older raids, even currently, a lot of the old ones have like 10-man heroic, 10-man normal, 25-man heroic, and 25-man normal. Or maybe it's just 10 and 25. Maybe there's not even heroic and normal. Those are static, fixed numbers. You come in with 10 or 25 people, no more, no less. If you do less, you're gonna suffer. You can't have more, or you can't do it. They're static. Kind of like Mythic. Mythic is 20 people, so you might be more familiar with a Mythic raid these days. Mythic is 20 people. You can technically do it with less, but you gotta be damn good to do it, is the point. But you can't do it with 21 people. It has to be 20. Flex Raid was the first kind of iteration, I guess, around that. I don't remember how high it could go. I don't remember. We never went more than like 27 or 28, because that's what we had in my raids at the time. But Flex had a very short shelf life because it was the first iteration of being able to bring an uneven amount of raiders that wasn't static. So I'm going to put it in B, because it was a needed stepping stone, I would say, to be able to get to where we are now with 10 and 25... 10 and 20, like, there's technically, like, they're still there. The static numbers are still there, but the raids will adjust and allow you now. They will flex. Technically all raids that we have, except for Mythic. Well, LFR technically is 25, but can technically do it with less. So we'll say normal and heroic are technically both flex. But this used to be its own difficulty. So if any of you remember that, short shelf life. Paragon reps. Okay, I'm gonna... I'm gonna preface Paragon with this. I like Paragon a lot on the premise that I like that as I'm doing other things and I get rep, passively, I can be working toward a cache, a Paragon cache. I like that the rep doesn't just end. On one hand, I like when reps are done, because then I never have to touch them again. On the other hand, I like Paragon rep because it keeps going, but it's kind of passive. You know, it's not required. However, I really don't like that they keep putting mounts and pets and stuff in the Paragon caches. Or recipes. For, like, professions. Or important stuff like that. Because then you have to grind for it if you want to collect it. Now, is it required? No. But it's just like a progression raider would look at item level or something and go, great, I don't want to do X content, but I have to because I need X item. But they locked it behind all this content I don't like. I get it, it's the same thing. Paragon rep, I don't like that they keep putting mounts in it because they're never freaking guaranteed. Now, the Shadowlands ones have a lot higher drop rate than the Legion and BFA ones did. The Legion ones, dear lords. By the light, by Odin's beard, I don't even know what to say. Insert expletive here. It took me until the very end of BFA to get the Legion Paragon mounts, and that was farming them religiously. Okay, Silverfire T, a friend of mine who I played with from Legion to through BFA, can attest to this. So on one hand, I was a little annoyed that they added the Legion time walking vendor, because you can just buy the reps and they upped the drop chance. I mean, like, I'm not mad. I'm very happy that they did that, but I wish that I had waited a little longer. I wish that I had known they were going to do that, because I don't think you realize the sheer amount of time. Like, you know, I got like invincible in 600 something tries, okay? It was in the few thousands for each of these Paragon mounts from Legion. That's how low they were. You know, it took me like, was it 4,000 something? I don't remember. It took me a few thousand just to get the Wondrous Wisdom Ball from the Kirin Tor cache, and that one's not even Paragon. It's might as well be, but ugh. So I like it at what it should be. I don't like what they keep putting in it. Put it that way. Paragon rep, solid B. Professions. B. I think the Shadowlands professions are going to be Shadowlands. I think the Dragonflight professions are going to be an A, but this is professions as they are now. This is not a Dragonflight list. This is as they are now. They're a B. Maybe even a C, but I'll leave them at a B. They're kind of boring. They kind of don't really do anything, but I like that they exist because it is something to do. And they can be useful in terms of collecting Mog or other items, you know. Some of them make pets. The engineering can be useful with its tinkers and stuff. Makes gliders, you know, that's handy. Water walking potions and stuff. Water breathing. Avalanche. Sea mist. There are useful utility. It's a very much utility, and I like utility items like I've mentioned before. But I wish it was a little more. And I really don't like that they keep disabling older profession utility every time something new comes out. I like having a backlog of all this old stuff that I've done and can use because I've put in the time for it. Please don't take my toys from me. I worked for them. So that's my gripe there. So, but solid B because of that. Weapon skills. Oh boy. I didn't use weapon skills. At all. I didn't play enough in the older expansions, you know, previous to MOP, whenever these even, before they even went away. Weapon skills don't exist anymore. Not in the sense that this thumbnail is showing, where you had to level up your weapon skills. I kind of wish they would come back, because that seems cool to me. So I guess I'll put these in D, just because D as in I can't speak to them, not because I don't like them. I do wish they'd come back, because I do like that RPG-ish sort of feel. I like being able to choose my different skills and, like, you know, that sort of stuff, but, like, I can't speak to them. Pet battles! I'm gonna put these at a solid C. I'm not really into pet battles themselves. I think the pet battles are kind of boring. However, I love collecting the pets, and to collect a lot of the pets, you need to be able to do pet battles. So, whatever. Pet battles are fine. I like collecting. That's about it. Valor / Justice Point Vendor. Whew. Oh. Do I miss them or do I not? I'll put him at a C. I did a lot of Valor and Justice Point grinding back in the day. Did a lot of it in MOP. A lot of Valor grinding in MOP. I think I did a lot of Justice grinding either in MOP or WoD. When did those go away? I don't remember. But I used the Justice points because you could convert them to honor. Back when you had honor points, it was a little different than the current ones. Assuming this is referring to the old version of this, I liked the old version. I haven't used the new one much. I liked that you could convert currencies with those. You can't do that anymore, I don't think, but anyway. Creation Catalyst. Okay. This needs to go in S tier. And I want them to do more of it. I saw that they're doing some sort of Creation Catalyst thing for Dragonflight. I haven't tested it at all, and I really hope that they continue it. Creation Catalyst is amazing, strictly for MOG purposes. I don't really care about the tier, but I like that they do give us access to tier. I wish... I'll put it this way. I really like that you can take pieces from one raid, put them in, and it'll give you the tier set, technically, from the most current raid. But because of that, a byproduct of that, and it includes the whole set, even the non-tier pieces, which is really nice of them, thank you Blizzard, is you get the transmog from it. So I've been able to collect a lot of transmog because of it. I have some of the mythic and heroic pieces. I wish I had time to get more. I don't have friends currently that I can do that with, or even the time to be able to do it right now because I have other things. So hopefully Creation Catalyst isn't going anywhere. But I like that I can collect other MOG pieces. It's wonderful. I wish it was a little more open. I wish you could choose which raid you got it from. Wasn't just the newest, but still. I really appreciate the system, and I want to see them elaborate on it. Moving on. Oh, last one. Cipher of the First Ones. D. I didn't like them. I didn't like the Cipher grind. It was a pain in the ass. I don't think the ciphers felt very rewarding. I liked the kind of lore aspect of it. There was slight RPG-ishness to it because you got to like read like the different languages and stuff, and it would like translate for you, but it doesn't. It was just like, here you go, you can understand it now. There wasn't like any RPG to it or immersion to it. It was just, here you go, which is kind of lame. And I don't like that they had really long research cooldowns on all of them. I know that research cooldown is lowered on like alts and stuff, but I didn't care for it personally. I didn't like a lot of those Earth Mortis systems, which is funny because it's a currency grind, but like the currency itself is all from, like, mobs and stuff. Like, I don't like mob grinds. I like currency grinds, but I don't like mob grinds. And when my mob grind is the currency grind, I don't like it. So, did we get through everything? We did! Yay! Okay. We're at almost 2 hours. That's longer than I was expecting it. Okay, so, let's, zoom out a little here. Go away, ad. You're in the way. So we can see my list. There we go. Yeah, so there's my list. There we go. I got artifact weapons, Mage Tower, Order Halls, Pathfinder, Transmog, and Creation Catalyst at S. I've got badge vendors, Benthic gear, Island expeditions, Legion legendaries, LFD, LFR, Mop legendary cloaks, personal loot, PvP vendor, Titan forging, and world quests at A. I have a lot of stuff at B. Azure armor, Chromie time, corruptions, customer support. I don't know. Still don't get why that one's in there. Garrisons, glyphs, visions, old talent system, daily quest, rune foraging, flex rating, tertiary stats. I know it's tertiary. I say tertiary. Bite me. Paragon reps, Thorghast. Professions, Threads of Fate, War of Fronts, and tier sets. In C, I have Ashran, Mythic Plus, Pet Battles, Brawlers Guild, Netherlight Crucible, Valley Justice Point Vendor, Covenant's new talent system, Essence Powers, South Legendary Cloaks, PvP Cash, PvP Vendor Upgrades, M Plus Cash, Time Walking, Great Vault, World Little Draenor Legendary Rings. In C. D is Conduits, Weapon Skills only because I've never used them myself. Hard mode, ciphers, item levels, mop farm scenarios, Shadowlands and Legendaries, and Shards of Domination. And in F tier, we have mission tables, all 3 of them. BFA, Legion, and WAD. And all 4 of them, and Shadowlands. Challenge mode, Need Greed, and Reforging. I don't hate very much, but it looks like it's all basically the same type of stuff. So there you go! Cool! I will put the link to this tier list in the description and in a pin. Maybe just the description. Probably just the description. It's easier. So if you want to do this yourself. So thank you again to the person that made this. This was a long list to compile, and by golly, you did a good job of it. I could say there should probably be some more in here. Like, we have LFD and LFR, but we don't have LFP. Like, looking for PvP groups. That's also a thing. You can queue as unrated versions, but I guess you can say that's LFD. I don't know. Maybe it's included in LFR. I don't know, there's that. There's some other things we could probably put in here, but, you know, it's nitpicky at that point, I guess. This is good enough. So, is there any systems you think should have been added to this? I can't think of any. This is a lot. Woof. Woof. This is a lot. A lot. So, yeah. I guess that's that. There's my tier list. And there we have it. If you think I've missed information or you want to request I do a specific guide, let me know in the comments below. Even if I don't answer you, I just might add your idea to my list. As always, thank you so much for watching, and remember, it's never too latte.